Hi, I'm Chris Koenig, and like you, I like to get the most out of my Jeep. And the factory actually makes something really cool that most of us overlook, and that's the fact that our rear bumper can hold up to 8 gallons of water. And that's where Jeep Karma's Aqua Bumper comes in. We're going to end up with 8 gallons of usable water for rinsing off the surfboard, rinsing off the scuba equipment, taking a shower at the campsite, or even rinsing off the dog after they run through the lake at the park.
First thing you do is you mark the fender intersect with the bumper, as well as marking where the body comes down onto the bumper, so you have a proper placement for the discharge fitting. Using a 16mm ratchet, remove the 8 bolts that hold the bumper to the frame. Using the provided wood screws, go ahead and plug the various holes that run along the bottom of the bumper. Using an appropriate drill bit, drill to the lowest possible point on the vertical towards the bottom of the bumper. Now mount the intake fitting using an appropriate wrap of Teflon tape and crank it in there. Make sure it's really tight as you tighten it down. Using the appropriate hole saw, go ahead and cut the hole for the drain fitting. Now using the appropriate drill bit, go ahead and cut the hole for the outtake fitting. Go ahead and mark for the main fitting, top fitting. You want to cut this hole as large as possible, but leaving enough room for the screw fittings and a good seal on your gasket. Before mounting the top fitting, you want to rinse out your bumper to remove any manufacturing debris that was left in. Prior to inserting the outtake fitting into the top hole that you cut earlier, you want to go ahead and secure the hose to the fitting properly and tighten down the C-clamp. Now secure the hose to the top fitting, pushing the hose over the nipple and tightening the C-clamp. Now remove the right tail light by removing only the 2 left screws on the frame. Disconnect the wiring harness from the light assembly. Remove the subwoofer housing and remove the door hinge assembly from the frame. Using your hand, reach in and remove the foam that's at the bottom of the housing to reveal the black panel that you'll be popping out and drilling the hose pass-throughs. Mount the hoses to the pump, noting which hose intake and outtake, then pass these hoses through the 2 holes in the plate that you drilled. Pull the pump as close to the plate as possible, then set the plate back into the housing. You notice that the pump will stand up on its own. Now using a couple of cans of expanding foam, go ahead and fill in the spaces around the pump, covering the pump 2/3 of the way up in height. Using an X-Acto blade, cut the grommet to allow the electrical cables to pass through from the pump. Using an appropriate drill, cut a hole for the rocker switch in the subwoofer housing. Connect the electrical components together using an appropriate size speaker wire. On my setup, I use the 12-volt outlet that's in the subwoofer housing as my hot source for the power. You can also run the speaker wire completely up through the cab, in through the engine firewall, and connect to your battery directly. You'll want to test the motor before closing up the subwoofer panel back to the body of the Jeep. Reassemble the subwoofer housing into the cab. You can then go ahead and reconnect the rear tail light housing back to the wiring harness. Now you're ready to reattach the bumper to the frame. Now you can connect the hoses to the intake fittings. Now fill the bumper up with fresh water, connect hose, and squeeze away.